All right, moving on to section 5. I managed to spill my mead in my lap, which was very sad and disappointing, but because I'm wearing wool, which is largely waterproof, it's not even damp, which is kind of amazing. I guess the Vikings were onto something there. So, here's me pouring the last of my mead. I'll try not to spill this. As we read section 5, which is Gudrid marries Thorstein, son of Erik the Red, and then the sickness and death of Thorstein. So, this should be quite dramatic, because nothing has been dramatic yet. Now, after this, I have to tell you how Thorstein, Erik's son, began wooing Gudrid, Thorbjorn's daughter. To his proposals, a favorable answer was given, both by the maid herself and also by her father. The marriage was also arranged, so that Thorstein went to take possession of his bride, and the bridal feast was held at Bratahild in the autumn. The banquet went off well, and was numerously attended. Thorstein owned a homestead in the Vesterberg on the estate known as Lysefjordur, the Shining Firth. The man who was called Thorstein owned the other half of the homestead. His wife was called Sigrid. Thorstein went during the autumn to Lysefjord, to his namesake, both he and Gudrid. Their reception was a welcome one. They were there during the winter. When little of the winter was past, the event happened there that the fever broke out on their estate. The overseer of the work was named Garth. He was an unpopular man. He took the fever first and died. Afterwards, and with little intermission, one took the fever after another and died. Then Thorstein, Erik's son, fell ill, and also Sigrid, the wife of his namesake Thorstein. And one evening Sigrid left the house, resting a while opposite the outer door, and Gudrid accompanied her. And they looked back toward the outer door, and Sigrid screamed aloud. Gudrid said, "We have come forth unwarily, and thou canst in no wise withstand the cold. Let us even go home as quickly as possible." "It is not safe as matters are," answered Sigrid. There is all that crowd of dead people before the door. Thorstein, thy husband, also, and myself I recognize among them, and it is grief thus to behold." And when this passed away, she said, "Let us go now, Gudrid. I see the crowd no longer." Thorstein, Erik's son, had also disappeared from her sight. He had seemed to have a whip in his hand, and to wish to smite the ghostly troop. Afterwards they went in, and before morning came she was dead, and a coffin was prepared for the body. Now the same day the men proposed to go out fishing, and Thorstein led them to the landing places, and in the early morning he went to see what they had caught. Then Thorstein, Erik's son, sent word to his namesake to come to him, saying that matters at home were hardly quiet, that the housewife was endeavoring to rise to her feet and to get under the clothes beside him. And when he was come in, she had risen upon the edge of the bed. Then took he her by the hands, and laid a poleaxe upon her breast. Thorstein, Erik's son, died near nightfall. Thorstein the franklin begged Gudrid to lie down and sleep, saying that he would watch over the body during the night. So she did. And when a little of the night was past, Thorstein, Erik's son, sat up and spake, saying that he wished Gudrid to be called to him, and that he wished to speak with her. "God wills," he said, "that this hour be given to me for my own, and the further completion of my plan." Thorstein the franklin went to find Gudrid and waked her, begging her to cross herself and to ask God for help, and told her what Thorstein, Erik's son, had spoken to him. "And he wishes," said he, "to meet with thee. Thou art obliged to consider what plan thou wilt adopt, because I can in this issue advise thee in no wise." She answered, "It may be that this wonderful thing has regard to certain matters, which are afterward to be had in memory, and I hope that God's keeping will test upon me. And I will, with God's grace, undertake the risk, and go to him, and know what he will say. For I shall not be able to escape if harm must happen to me. I am far from wishing that he should go elsewhere. I suspect, moreover, that the matter will be a pressing one. Then went Gudrid and saw Thorstein. He appeared to her as if shedding tears. He spake in her ear in a low voice certain words which she alone might know. But this he said so that all heard, that those men who be blessed, who held with true faith, and that all salvation and mercy accompanied it, and that many, nevertheless, held it lightly. It is, said he, no good custom, which has prevailed here in Greenland since Christianity came, to bury men in unconsecrated ground with few religious rites over them. I wish for myself, and for those other men who have died, to be taken to the church. But for Garth, I wish him to be burned on a funeral pile as soon as may be, for he is the cause of all those ghosts which have been among us this winter. He spake to Gudrid also about her own state, saying that her destiny would be a great one, and begged her to be aware of marrying Greenland men, or to beware of marrying Greenland men. He begged her also to pay over their property to the church and some to the poor, and then he sank down for the second time. It had been a custom in Greenland, after Christianity was brought there, to bury men in unconsecrated ground, on the farms where they died. An upright stake was placed over a body, and when the priests came afterward to the place, then was the stake pulled out, consecrated water poured therein, and a funeral service held, though it might be long after the burial. The bodies were removed to the church in Eriksfjordur, the funeral service held by the priests. After that died Thorbjorn. The whole property then went to Gudrid. Erik received her into his household, and looked well after her stores. And that is the end of part 5.